You spend millions of dollars on a car. The title transfers. The keys are in your hand. It's yours, legally, officially, completely. And then the manufacturer tells you that only they can fix it, only they can source the parts, and if you dare let anyone else touch it, you're on your own. How does that make sense? How is it legal? And why is almost nobody talking about it? That's exactly what's happening with Alex and his Bugatti. And if he follows through on the legal challenge he's been building toward, this case could reshape the entire luxury car industry. Let's start with the law, because that's where the foundation of this fight lies. In October 2024, the EU passed its right to repair legislation. The goal was straightforward: break the manufacturer monopoly over spare parts and repair services. Specifically, the law targets what are called visible spare parts: bumpers, lights, body panels, the exact components that manufacturers have historically charged a fortune for. It introduced a unified repair clause, which in plain terms means consumers have the legal right to choose non-original parts, independent suppliers, and third-party mechanics without penalty. No more gatekeeping. No more forced loyalty to official dealer networks. The law was designed to lower costs, stimulate competition, and give car owners back the freedom that should have been theirs from the moment they signed the purchase agreement. And critically, EU legislators made it explicitly clear: a car does not need to be serviced by a main dealer in order to retain its warranty. That should settle the matter. But manufacturers are clever. They found a workaround. They offer a warranty extension, typically an additional year of coverage, but only if you service exclusively through their official network. It's not technically mandatory. Nobody forces you to take the extension. But when you're talking about a multi-million-dollar hypercar, the thought of walking away from that coverage is terrifying. So owners comply. They pay the inflated labor rates. They accept the restricted access. They don't push back because the risk feels too high. That's the game. Manufacturers work around legislation by exploiting fear. They can't legally force you to use their service network, so instead they make the alternative feel dangerous. And because most owners of these vehicles have too much to lose and too little time to fight, the manufacturers get away with it. Every time. Until now. Alex purchased this Bugatti legally, through auction. Title transferred. Ownership is not in question. But Bugatti's response to his independent rebuild has been silence, obstruction, and a refusal to cooperate, as though the sale came with invisible strings attached. As though ownership is conditional on their ongoing approval. Here's why that posture is legally dangerous for them. European competition law is not subtle on this point. Manufacturers are prohibited from forcing customers into official service networks. They are prohibited from creating monopolies over repair access. Blocking independent mechanics from accessing parts, tools, and technical data isn't just inconvenient. It can constitute anti-competitive behavior, which is explicitly illegal under EU law. The law supports third-party access to parts. It supports third-party access to tools. It supports third-party access to technical information. That's not a recommendation. That's the framework the law establishes. So when a manufacturer refuses to provide parts, withholds technical data, and refuses to recognize an independent rebuild, what exactly is that, if not the monopoly the legislation was written to prevent? This is where the argument stops being about policy and starts being about power. They don't want you to have options. They want you dependent. They want you locked into their ecosystem, paying their prices, on their timeline, indefinitely, even after you've already paid millions to own the car outright. In most European countries, once you legally purchase a vehicle, it is your property. Completely and unambiguously. The manufacturer cannot legally dictate who repairs it after the sale. They can offer recommendations. They can issue warnings. But they cannot exercise control. Attempting to obstruct a legal repair or deny access to parts and data for a vehicle you legally own runs directly into basic ownership rights, consumer protection law, and foundational principles of private property. Alex understood this from the beginning. That's what makes his approach different from most. He didn't start pulling the car apart and hope things worked out legally. He had lawyers involved before the rebuild even began, before the car was split, before the first component was removed. Because this was never purely about fixing a Bugatti. It was about establishing what ownership actually means. It was about proving that even the most exclusive, most expensive, most meticulously gate-kept machines in the world fall under the same legal framework as everything else. The price tag does not exempt a manufacturer from the law. Now, here's where the strategy gets interesting. If Alex pursues legal action after the rebuild is completed, the entire dynamic shifts. Right now, Bugatti's position has some cover. They can argue the rebuild is risky. They can question whether an independent shop has the capability. They can frame their obstruction as concern for safety and engineering integrity. But once the car is finished, once it runs, once it's been inspected, certified, and proven to perform exactly as it should, that argument collapses completely. At that point, the question is no longer whether independent repair was possible. It clearly was. The question becomes, why did they try to stop it? Why did they withhold cooperation? Why did they refuse parts and data for a vehicle the customer legally owns? Safety and engineering integrity don't hold up as answers when the independent rebuild is sitting right there, fully functional, as evidence. That's a much harder case for Bugatti to win. And they know it. This is also why the case matters beyond one car and one owner. This is about precedent. A successful legal challenge would confirm that luxury and hypercar manufacturers are not above the same ownership and competition principles that govern the rest of the automotive industry. It would establish that the right to repair is not a right that evaporates once a car crosses a certain price threshold. Because if a manufacturer can do this to a Bugatti owner, someone with resources, with legal support, with a platform, imagine what they're doing to everyone else. What stops Ferrari from taking the same position? What stops Porsche, McLaren, Lamborghini? If Bugatti gets away with this unchallenged, the entire segment takes note. The behavior becomes industry standard, and the window to fight it closes. This is the core tension at the heart of the entire dispute. Ownership versus control. Consumer rights versus corporate gatekeeping. The right to repair your property versus a manufacturer's financial interest in being the only one who ever touches it. The right to repair legislation exists for exactly this reason. It was written to ensure that ownership means something real, not conditional, not restricted, not subject to the ongoing approval of the company that sold you the product. You bought it. It's yours. Full stop. But laws are only as powerful as their enforcement. And enforcement only happens when someone is willing to stand behind the law and force a test. Most people can't afford that fight. Most people don't have the platform to make it visible. Most people absorb the cost, comply with the restrictions, and move on. Alex has the resources. He has the legal groundwork in place. He has a rebuild that, if completed successfully, becomes the most compelling piece of evidence he could possibly have. The question now is whether he takes the next step. If this goes to court, Bugatti faces a difficult choice. They can fight it and risk losing. And if they lose, every hypercar manufacturer loses with them. The precedent is set. The legal framework is tested and confirmed. The gatekeeping becomes indefensible across the entire industry. Or they don't fight. They settle quietly, revise their internal policies without any public acknowledgement, and hope the story fades. But even that outcome sets a precedent. It signals that when an owner pushes back with legal preparation and public pressure, manufacturers back down. That's not a clean win for them either. Either way, this doesn't end with the rebuild. The rebuild was phase 1. The legal challenge is phase 2. And phase 2 is where the real leverage lies. You can rebuild a car in a garage, but you change an industry in a courtroom. That's where the rules actually get rewritten. That's where the gatekeepers lose their grip. That's where one person's refusal to accept the status quo becomes something that protects every car owner who comes after them. And if Alex goes all the way, if he refuses to back down when the pressure builds, and the pressure will build, this becomes the case that matters. The case that proves you can't be bullied into surrendering rights you never agreed to give up. The case that proves ownership is not a conditional privilege. The case that proves the law works, if someone is willing to stand behind it. This is bigger than one Bugatti. This is about what it means to own something and whether the word ownership has any real meaning left, or whether it's just a transaction that leaves the manufacturer permanently in control of what you thought was yours. Stay tuned, because this is just getting started.